Captain Jake Morrison stood at the front window of his ship, looking out at the huge space station ahead. The Terra's voice was small compared to the alien ships around it. Bright lights from dozens of different vessels lit up the darkness of space. Each ship belonged to a different alien race that was part of the Galactic Council. Jake had been preparing for this moment for 3 years. He wore his best uniform with all his medals. Behind him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. Everyone knew how important this day was for humanity. "Captain, we're getting a signal from the Council station," said Lieutenant Amy Parker from her seat. "They want us to dock at Port 7. "Take us in slowly," Jake ordered. "Let's not give them any reason to think we're dangerous." The Terra's voice moved carefully toward the massive station. Jake could see alien ships of all shapes and sizes. Some looked like crystals that sparkled in the light. Others were round and smooth like soap bubbles. A few looked like giant insects made of metal. Inside the docking bay, Jake and his team put on their breathing masks. The air here was safe for humans, but it smelled strange. They walked through long hallways filled with aliens Jake had only seen in videos before. The council chamber was enormous. It could hold thousands of beings. Jake felt very small as he walked to the center where a single chair waited for him. Around him, hundreds of alien eyes watched his every move. The council speaker was a creature called Vextar. He was 10 feet tall with green scales and yellow eyes. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the chamber. "Human Representative Jake Morrison," Vextar said, "you come before us asking to join our alliance. We have studied your species for many years." Jake stood up straight. "Yes, honored speaker. Humanity has worked hard to prove we deserve a place among the stars." Murmurs filled the chamber. Jake could not understand the alien languages, but the sounds did not seem friendly. "Your species has shown progress," Vextar continued. "You have built ships that can travel between stars. You have learned to speak some of our languages. You have stopped most wars on your home world." Jake felt hope rising in his chest. This sounded like the beginning of good news. "However," Vexatar's voice grew cold, "we have also seen your violent history. We have watched you fight each other for thousands of years. Even now, some humans still choose war over peace." The chamber grew quiet. Jake could hear his own heartbeat. "The Council has made its decision. Your application to join the Galactic Alliance is denied." The words hit Jake like a physical blow. Around him, alien beings made sounds that might have been agreement or celebration. He felt his legs grow weak. "Furthermore," Vextar said, "humanity will be confined to your solar system. You are too dangerous to be allowed to spread among the stars." "But we've changed," Jake said, his voice cracking. "We're not the same species we were 100 years ago." "Change takes time," replied another council member, a being that looked like living glass. "Perhaps in 1,000 years we will reconsider." Jake wanted to argue, but he knew it would do no good. The decision was final. Back on Earth, President Lisa Carter sat in her office watching the news reports. Crowds had gathered in every major city on the planet. When Jake's message arrived confirming the rejection, riots began. In New York, people threw rocks at alien embassy buildings. In London, protesters burned flags of council member species. In Tokyo, crowds marched through the streets, shouting angry words. Lisa rubbed her tired eyes. She had been president for 6 years, and this was supposed to be her greatest achievement. Instead, it was becoming her worst failure. Her assistant knocked on the door. "Madam President, General Mills is here to see you." General Patricia Mills entered the office. She was a tough woman who had served in the military for 30 years. Her face showed no emotion, but Lisa could see anger in her eyes. "The people are scared and angry," Patricia said. "They feel like we've been judged unfairly." "Maybe we have been," Lisa replied. "But what can we do about it?" Patricia sat down across from the president's desk. "There are options. Not good ones, but options." Before Lisa could ask what she meant, another person entered the room. Dr. Marcus Webb was the head of the Human Defense Initiative. He was thin and pale from spending too much time in laboratories, but his mind was one of the sharpest on Earth. Madam President, Marcus said, we need to talk about the quarantine. What quarantine? Lisa asked. The council didn't just reject us, Marcus explained. They've trapped us. Our long-range sensors are picking up some kind of energy barrier around our entire solar system. Lisa felt her stomach drop. What does that mean? It means we can't leave, Patricia said grimly. Even if we wanted to ignore their decision and explore space anyway, we can't. They've built a prison around us. Marcus pulled out a tablet and showed them readings full of numbers and graphs. The barrier uses technology we don't understand. It would destroy any ship that tried to pass through it. Lisa stood up and walked to her window. Outside, she could see smoke rising from parts of the city where protests had turned violent. So we're stuck, she said. For now, Patricia replied. But Marcus has an idea. Marcus nodded. The barrier gives off energy signatures. If we study it long enough, we might be able to understand how it works. And if we understand how it works, we might be able to break it, Lisa finished. Or better yet, Patricia said, we might be able to use their own technology against them. Lisa turned back to face them. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we stop trying to be the peaceful species they want us to be, Patricia said. They rejected us because they think we're violent and dangerous. Maybe it's time to prove them right. Marcus looked uncomfortable. I'm not talking about starting a war. I'm talking about preparing for one, just in case. Lisa walked back to her desk and sat down heavily. Outside, the protests were getting louder. How long would something like this take? She asked. Years, Marcus admitted. Maybe decades. We'd have to work in secret. We'd have to build new ships, develop new weapons, train new soldiers. And we'd have to do it all while pretending to accept the council's decision. Patricia added. Lisa looked out at the angry crowds again. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing to join the galactic community. They had built their best ships, sent their smartest people to learn alien languages, and worked hard to end conflicts on Earth. And it had all been for nothing. Do it, she said quietly. Madam President? Marcus asked. Do it, Lisa repeated, louder this time. Start your research, begin the preparations. If the council wants to treat us like prisoners, then maybe it's time we showed them what dangerous prisoners can do. Patricia smiled for the first time since entering the office. It won't be easy. We'll have to hide everything we're doing. Then, we'll hide it, Lisa said. The council thinks they know what humanity is capable of. They think they can judge us based on our past. Well, they're about to learn that the future is very different from the past. Marcus gathered his papers. I'll start working on the barrier analysis immediately. And I'll begin identifying people we can trust, Patricia said. This has to stay secret until we're ready. After they left, Lisa sat alone in her office. The sounds of the angry crowds were getting quieter, but she knew the anger would not fade. Humanity had been rejected and imprisoned by beings who claimed to be peaceful and wise. But maybe Patricia was right. Maybe it was time to stop trying to be what others wanted them to be. Maybe it was time to be what they were. Dangerous, unpredictable, and very, very angry. The council had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs. 5 years had passed since the council's rejection. On the surface, Earth looked peaceful. People went to work, children went to school, and life seemed normal. But beneath this calm surface, something dangerous was growing. Commander Ryan Phillips floated in the darkness of space, looking at the massive construction site on the far side of the moon. Hidden shipyards stretched for miles in every direction. Hundreds of workers in spacesuits moved like ants, building humanity's first real war fleet. Commander, the Silent Fury is ready for final testing, said Chief Engineer Katie Morrison over the radio. She was Jake Morrison's daughter, but unlike her father, she had never believed in peaceful solutions. Ryan smiled inside his helmet. The Silent Fury was humanity's first true warship. It looked nothing like the peaceful exploration vessels they had built before. This ship was designed for one purpose: to kill. Take her out for a test run, Ryan ordered. But stay away from the barrier. We don't want the council to know what we're building. Down on Earth, Dr. Amanda Foster worked in a secret laboratory buried deep underground. The lab was hidden beneath a normal research facility, and only a few people knew it existed. Amanda had been studying the Council's quarantine barrier for 5 years, and she had made discoveries that excited and terrified her. The barrier isn't just a wall, she explained to her team. It's alive. It responds to thoughts and emotions. The Council uses some kind of living energy to power it. Her assistant, Dr. Bobby Turner, looked at the data on his screen. If it's alive, can we kill it? Better than that, Amanda said with a dangerous smile. We can turn it against them. I've figured out how to harvest its energy and use it to power our own weapons. The breakthrough had come by accident. Amanda had been trying to understand how the barrier worked when she noticed that it grew stronger when humans got angry or afraid. The Council had built their prison using humanity's own emotions as fuel. But Amanda had learned something the Council didn't know. Human emotions could be controlled and focused, and when they became incredibly powerful. In the hidden moon base, Commander Phillips was meeting with his senior officers. The room was small and cold, but it was filled with determination. Intelligence reports that the Council patrol ship Harmony's Edge will pass through our sector in 3 days, said Lieutenant Colonel Steve Baker. It's a routine scan of the barrier. Perfect, Phillips said. It's time to test our new weapons. Captain Danny Rodriguez raised his hand. Sir, are we sure about this? Once we attack a Council ship, there's no going back. Phillips looked around the room at his officers. These were not the peaceful diplomats who had tried to join the Council. These were soldiers who had spent 5 years preparing for war. The Council made their choice when they locked us in a cage, Phillips said. Now we make ours. 3 days later, the Harmony's Edge drifted through space near the barrier. The ship was beautiful, with smooth curves and bright colors. It was built for exploration and research, not fighting. Captain Velhan of the Harmony's Edge was a peaceful being, from a race called the Star Singers. His people had been part of the Council for over 1,000 years. They had never fought a war because they had never needed to. Barrier status is normal, reported his science officer. The humans show no signs of unusual activity. Velhan nodded. He felt sorry for the humans. They seemed like an interesting species, but the Council's decision had been wise. Humans were too violent to be trusted among the stars. He never saw the silent fury approaching. The human warship moved through space like a shadow. Its hull was black and designed to absorb scanner beams. New technology based on Amanda's research made it nearly invisible. Target locked, whispered the Silent Fury's weapons officer. Fire, ordered Commander Phillips. The attack was swift and brutal. New human weapons powered by barrier energy tore through the Harmony's Edge like paper. The alien ship's peaceful crew had no chance to fight back or even call for help. Within minutes, it was over. The Harmony's Edge was disabled and drifting. Most of its crew was dead, but Phillips had ordered some to be taken alive. Lieutenant Colonel Baker led the boarding party. His soldiers moved through the alien ship like professional killers. The surviving aliens were too shocked to resist. Please, Captain Velhan begged, as Baker's soldiers dragged him to the Silent Fury. We meant you no harm. We were just following orders. Baker looked at the alien captain with cold eyes. So are we. Back at the moon base, the alien prisoners were kept in a secure area. Steve Baker questioned them one by one, learning everything he could about Council military structures and weaknesses. They're not soldiers, Baker reported to Phillips. They're explorers and scientists. The Council doesn't have a real military, because they've never needed one. What about their defenses? Phillips asked. Minimal, Baker replied. They have some armed ships, but they're designed for policing, not war. The Council controls the galaxy through economics and technology, not force. Phillips smiled. The Council's greatest strength was also their greatest weakness. They had grown soft and lazy after centuries of unchallenged power. Dr. Webb arrived at the moon base with exciting news. We've analyzed the captured Council technology, he said. Their computers, their weapons, even their life support systems. They're all decades behind what we've developed. How is that possible? Phillips asked. They stopped innovating, Webb explained. When you don't have to compete or fight for survival, You stop trying to improve. We've been building better technology because we had to. The most important discovery came when Amanda Foster arrived with her research team. She had been studying the energy signatures from the captured Council ship. The barrier isn't just around our solar system, she announced. The Council has smaller barriers around every member world. They use them to control trade and communication. Can we break through them? Phillips asked. Better than that, Amanda said. I think we can take control of them. If we can hack into the Council's barrier network, we could cut off their communications across the entire galaxy. Phillips looked at the data Amanda had brought. The implications were staggering. The Council wasn't just keeping humanity trapped, they were keeping everyone trapped. How long until we're ready for a real attack, he asked. 6 months, Amanda replied. Maybe less if we can capture more Council technology. Phillips nodded. Then we start planning our first strike. Meanwhile on Earth, President Carter was dealing with the political side of the secret war. She had to keep humanity's activities hidden while also preparing the population for what was coming. The people are getting restless, her chief of staff reported. They want to know why we're not doing more to challenge the quarantine. They'll know soon enough, Carter replied. How are our hidden colonies doing? The president was referring to human settlements that had been established before the quarantine. Officially, these colonies had been abandoned. In reality, they were secretly building their own fleets and weapons. Colony 7 reports they've completed their first destroyer, the chief of staff said. Colony 12 has established contact with some unhappy alien species who might be willing to help us. Carter felt a surge of pride. Humanity had been rejected and imprisoned, but they had not given up. While the Council thought humans were safely locked away, they were actually building an army. The plan was simple, but dangerous. Human forces would strike at multiple Council targets simultaneously. They would capture technology, free oppressed species, and show the galaxy that the Council was not as powerful as they pretended to be. But first, they needed to test their new weapons and tactics against a real target. Commander Phillips stood on the bridge of the Silent Fury, looking at the star charts. Tomorrow they would attack their first major target, a Council research station called Kepler Station. Are you sure about this, sir? Asked his first officer. Once we attack a major Council facility, they'll know we're at war. Phillips thought about the last 5 years. He thought about the humiliation of rejection and the anger of being caged like animals. He thought about all the work and sacrifice that had brought them to this moment. Good, he said finally. It's time they learned what happens when you underestimate humanity. The Council had wanted to keep humans locked away because they were too dangerous. Soon they would discover just how dangerous humanity could be when they chose power over peace. Colonel Danny Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the human warship Stormbreaker, watching as 11 other ships moved into attack formation. Ahead of them, Kepler Station floated in space like a giant metal flower. The Council research station was beautiful, with curved walls and glowing lights that made it look more like art than a military target. All ships report ready, Colonel, said his communications officer, Lieutenant Amy Parker. Danny nodded. He had been preparing for this moment for 2 years. The attack on Kepler Station would be humanity's first major strike against the Council. If they succeeded, it would prove that humans could fight the most powerful organization in the galaxy. If they failed, it might be the end of everything. Remember the plan, Danny said over the radio to all 12 ships. Fast and hard. Don't give them time to call for help. The human fleet moved forward like a pack of wolves. Their ships were smaller than the massive Council vessels, but they were faster and deadlier. Each ship was painted black and covered with technology that made them nearly invisible to alien sensors. On Kepler Station, Research Director Kolnath was studying data from the Outer Rim worlds when his security officer burst into his laboratory. Director, we have multiple contacts approaching the station, the officer said. They appeared out of nowhere. Kolnath looked confused. Contacts? What kind of contacts? Unknown ships, sir. They don't match any Council designs. Kolnath felt a chill run through his body. In 300 years, no one had ever attacked a Council facility. It was unthinkable. Raise the shields, he ordered. Send a distress signal to the nearest council fleet. But it was already too late. Danny's ships opened fire before the station's crew could react. Human weapons, powered by the same energy that created the quarantine barrier, tore through the station's defenses like they were made of paper. The beautiful curved walls cracked and split under the assault. Shields down to 30%, reported the station's defense officer. They're using some kind of new weapon technology. Impossible, Kolneth said. No one has weapons more advanced than the Council. The attack lasted less than 2 hours. Human soldiers in black armor poured through the station's broken walls, moving with precision and speed that shocked the alien defenders. The Council's security forces had been trained to deal with riots and protests, not professional soldiers. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Baker led the assault team through the station's main corridors. His soldiers moved like a machine, clearing room after room with deadly efficiency. Research labs are secured, Baker reported over his radio. We have prisoners and a lot of valuable equipment. Excellent, Danny replied from his ship. How many casualties? 12 aliens dead, 43 captured. 0 human casualties. Danny smiled grimly. The Council's defenders had been completely outmatched. Within 6 hours, Kepler Station belonged to humanity. The research facility that had studied alien technology for centuries was now a human military base. Admiral Helen Carter arrived 3 days later with a larger fleet and construction crews. She was President Carter's older sister, and she had been planning this moment since the quarantine began. How does it feel to own your first alien base? She asked Danny as they stood in what used to be the station's command center. Like the beginning of something bigger, Danny replied. Helen nodded. Much bigger. Intelligence reports that the Council is sending a war fleet to retake the station. War leader Thakmor of the Ironclaws is leading it personally. Danny had heard of Thakmor. The Ironclaws were the closest thing the Council had to real soldiers. They were big, strong, and had been keeping peace in the galaxy for over 1,000 years. How many ships? Danny asked. 57, Helen replied, including their flagship, the Eternal Peace. Danny whistled. That's a lot of firepower. Yes, but it's the wrong kind of firepower, Helen said with a smile. Dr. Webb's analysis of captured Council technology shows that their weapons are designed to disable, not destroy. They're used to dealing with pirates and rebels, not real soldiers. Meanwhile, Captain Bobby Turner was interrogating the captured alien researchers. He had set up a questioning room in the lower levels of the station, where the aliens were held in comfortable but secure quarters. Please understand, said Dr. Velthar, a thin alien with gray skin and large eyes. We are scientists, not soldiers. We never wanted to harm anyone. Neither did we, Bobby replied. But your council made that choice for us. The quarantine was for everyone's safety, Velthar protested. Humans are too violent to be trusted with advanced technology. Bobby laughed bitterly. Look around you, Doctor. We broke through your defenses in 2 hours. We captured your station without losing a single soldier. Maybe you should worry about your own technology instead of ours. The interrogations revealed important information about Council technology and military capabilities. The aliens had been so confident in their superiority that they had never bothered to improve their defenses. Dr. Marcus Webb arrived at the station with a team of human scientists. They immediately began studying the captured Council equipment, and what they found amazed them. Their computers are at least 50 years behind ours, Webb reported to Admiral Carter. Their weapons are powerful, but they're slow and clumsy. Even their life support systems are less efficient than what we build. How is that possible? Helen asked. They stopped trying, Webb explained. When you control the galaxy for 1,000 years, you get lazy. They've been using the same technology for centuries because no one ever challenged them. Katie Morrison, now chief engineer of the human fleet, was examining the station's power systems. Admiral, you need to see this, she called out. Helen followed Katie to the station's main power core. It was a massive crystal that glowed with soft blue light. This crystal powers the entire station, Katie explained. But it's not generating power. It's storing it. The energy comes from somewhere else. Where? Helen asked. Katie pointed to a series of cables that ran through the station's walls. From the barrier network, every council facility is connected to the same energy grid that keeps us trapped in our solar system. Helen felt excitement building in her chest. Can we tap into it? Better than that, Katie said. I think we can take control of it. If we can hack into the council's energy network, we could shut down their entire civilization. The attack came. 1 week later, War Leader Thakmor's fleet dropped out of hyperspace in a perfect battle formation. The Iron Claw's ships were massive and intimidating, covered in armor and bristling with weapons. Surrender immediately, Thakmor broadcast to the station. Return our facility and submit to council justice. This is your only warning, Admiral. Carter responded from the station's command center. This is Admiral Helen Carter of the Human Defense Force. Kepler Station now belongs to humanity. If you want it back, come and take it. The space battle that followed became legendary throughout the galaxy. Thakmor's ships attacked with overwhelming force, but the humans were ready for them. Commander Ryan Phillips led the human fleet from the bridge of the Silent Fury. His ships moved like dancers, using speed and cunning to avoid the Council's heavy weapons while striking at weak points in their formation. Iron Claw flagship is targeting the station, reported his tactical officer. All ships protect the base, Phillips ordered. Show them what human pilots can do. The human ships swarmed around the massive council vessels like angry wasps. Their smaller size and superior maneuverability allowed them to strike and retreat before the aliens could respond. But the real surprise came when the station itself joined the fight. Katie Morrison had spent the week upgrading the station's defenses with human technology. The energy weapons that emerged from the station's hull were unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Impossible, Thakmor growled as one of his destroyers exploded under the station's fire. Where did humans get this technology? From you, Admiral Carter replied over the radio. We've been studying your barrier technology for 6 years. Did you really think we wouldn't learn how to use it? The battle raged for 12 hours. When it ended, 38 council ships had been destroyed or disabled. Only 19 escaped, and many of those were badly damaged. Thakmor himself was among the prisoners. The proud warrior who had never lost a battle sat in a holding cell, staring at the floor in shock. Your weapons are impressive, he said when Admiral Carter came to question him. But you cannot defeat the entire council. There are thousands of worlds, millions of ships. Maybe, Helen replied. But you're not fighting the humans you remember. We're not the same species that begged to join your council 6 years ago. What do you want? Thakmor asked. Helen smiled. Everything you took from us. Freedom, respect, the right to travel among the stars. And if the council refuses? Then we'll take it anyway, Helen said simply. Your people made a mistake when they caged humanity. They forgot that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do to a predator is trap it in a corner. As news of the victory spread throughout the galaxy, something unexpected began to happen. Species that had been oppressed by the Council for centuries started to whisper about the humans who had defeated the mighty Iron Claws. On distant worlds, beings who had never seen a human began to hope that change was finally coming to the galaxy. The news of humanity's victory at Kepler Station spread across the galaxy like wildfire. In the great council chambers on the capital world of Prima, emergency sessions ran day and night. For the first time in 1,000 years, the council faced a real threat to their power. Speaker Vex Tar stood before the assembled representatives, his green scales darker than usual with stress. The humans have declared war on our civilization, he announced. They have destroyed our fleet and captured one of our most important research stations. Murmurs of fear and anger filled the chamber. Many council members had never experienced violence in their long lives. The idea that someone would actually attack them was terrifying. We must respond with overwhelming force, declared War Leader Moxkar of the Battle Claws, Thakmor's replacement. Send every ship we have. Crush these humans before they can spread their violence further. But other voices disagreed. Perhaps we should negotiate, suggested Ambassador Lindar of the peaceful Treefolk maybe we can find a solution that does not require more fighting. Negotiate? Vextar's voice was full of disbelief. They attacked us without warning. They took our people prisoner. There can be no peace with such creatures. While the council argued, General Patricia Mills stood in the war room deep beneath Earth's surface. Around her, dozens of screens showed human fleets moving to attack positions throughout the galaxy. The time for hiding was over. Operation Thunderstrike begins in 6 hours, Patricia announced to her staff. 17 council worlds will be hit simultaneously. Remember, we target military and government facilities only. No civilian casualties, unless absolutely necessary. The plan was bold and dangerous. Human forces, supported by their hidden colonies, would attack multiple council worlds at the same time. The goal was not to conquer territory, but to break the council's ability to coordinate their response. Captain Danny Rodriguez, now promoted to general, led the attack on Talar Prime, one of the council's main military bases. His fleet of 20 ships dropped out of hyperspace just outside the planet's defense grid. Intelligence reports the base has over 200 ships, his tactical officer reported. But most of them are supply vessels and transports. Perfect, Danny said. Take out their communications first, then their shipyard. The attack began with a barrage of missiles that destroyed Talar Prime's communication satellites. Within minutes, the planet was cut off from the rest of the council network. Then human fighters swept down on the shipyard, destroying half-built vessels and construction equipment. The planet's defenders tried to fight back, but they were confused and disorganized. Without communications, they could not coordinate their response. Within 8 hours, Talar Prime's military capability was destroyed. On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Helen Carter led a different kind of mission. Her target was Verdana, a world populated by the peaceful garden folk. These aliens had been part of the Council for centuries, but many of them were unhappy with Council rule. Remember, Helen told her officers, we're not here to conquer. We're here to liberate. The garden folk had been forced to give most of their food production to feed other council worlds. Their own people often went hungry while their crops were shipped away to richer planets. When Helen's ships appeared in orbit, the planet's governor immediately surrendered. But something unexpected happened. Crowds of garden folk gathered in their cities not to protest the human invasion, but to welcome it. Please, said Elder Bloomheart when Helen met with the planet's leaders. Help us break free from the council. They have taken our children to work in their factories and stolen our food to feed their armies. Helen felt a mixture of sadness and anger. The council had presented themselves as peaceful and just, but the reality was very different. We'll help you, Helen promised, but you'll need to help us too. On 17 worlds, similar scenes played out. Human forces struck quickly and efficiently, destroying council military assets while making contact with oppressed populations. Not every attack succeeded, but most did. The most important target was Nexus Prime, the council's central hub world. This was where their main computer networks were located, and where they controlled the barrier systems that kept species trapped on their home worlds. Captain Bobby Turner led a team of specialists through the underground tunnels beneath Nexus, Prime's capital city. His mission was to reach the central computer core and plant a virus created by Dr. Amanda Foster. The virus will give us access to their entire network, Amanda had explained before the mission. Once we're in, we can shut down barriers, disrupt communications, and maybe even take control of their automated defense systems. Bobby's team moved through the dark tunnels like ghosts. Above them, the sounds of battle echoed through the streets as human forces fought council security troops. Computer core is just ahead, whispered Sergeant Lucy Adams, Bobby's second in command. 2 guards at the door. Bobby nodded and signaled his team. They moved forward silently, taking out the guards without raising an alarm. The computer core was a massive room filled with glowing crystals and humming machinery. This is it, Bobby said as he connected Amanda's virus to the main terminal. If this works, we'll have access to every council system in the galaxy. The virus spread through the council's networks like a disease. Within hours, barriers around dozens of worlds began to flicker and fail. Communication systems crashed. Even the lights in council buildings started going out, but the council was not helpless. On the war world of Kresh, War leader Moxcar assembled the largest fleet in Council history. Over 500 ships gathered in space above the planet, preparing to strike back at humanity. The humans think they are clever. Moxcar growled to his officers. They think their surprise attacks make them strong, but they have never faced the full might of the Council military. The Council fleet was impressive. Massive battleships bristled with weapons. Fast cruisers carried elite troops. Even their support ships were larger than most human vessels. But when they arrived at Kepler Station, they found a very different enemy than they expected. Commander Ryan Phillips had used the past weeks to turn Kepler Station into a fortress. The station was now surrounded by defensive platforms and minefields. Human ships patrolled the area in constant motion, ready to strike at any attacker. Council fleet approaching, reported his sensor officer. 537 ships. Let them come, Phillips said calmly. We're ready. The battle for Kepler Station was the largest space battle in galactic history. The Council fleet attacked in waves, trying to overwhelm the human defenses through sheer numbers. But the humans had advantages the Council did not expect. Their ships were faster and more maneuverable. Their weapons were more accurate. Most importantly, their tactics were completely different from anything the Council had seen before. Human ships fought like a pack of wolves, working together to isolate and destroy larger Council vessels. They used the asteroid field around Kepler Station for cover, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. The turning point came when Dr. Webb's team activated their secret weapon. They had spent months studying the Council's barrier technology, and they had learned to create their own energy barriers. Initiating field projection, Webb announced from the station's command center. Suddenly, energy barriers appeared around the attacking Council ships. The barriers were not meant to trap the ships, but to interfere with their weapons and navigation systems. Our targeting computers are offline, reported one Council captain. I can't get a clear shot at anything. All ships, fall back and regroup, ordered Moxcar. But it was too late. Human ships swept in for the kill, destroying confused and helpless Council vessels with deadly precision. The proud Council fleet, which had never known defeat, was torn apart in less than 6 hours. When the battle ended, only 43 Council ships escaped. The rest were destroyed or captured. Moxcar himself died when his flagship exploded, still trying to rally his broken forces. On Earth, President Carter watched the battle reports with mixed emotions. Humanity was winning, but the cost was high. Thousands of aliens had died, and many more would die before the war ended. The Council is requesting a meeting, her aide reported. They want to discuss terms. Carter looked at the star map showing human forces spread across the galaxy. Red markers showed Council worlds under attack. Green markers showed liberated planets that had joined the human cause. What kind of terms? She asked. They're offering to recognize human sovereignty over our conquered territory. In exchange, we would stop attacking Council worlds. Carter shook her head. It's not enough. We didn't start this war to gain territory. We started it to gain freedom. The aide looked confused. What do you mean, Madam President? I mean, we're not stopping until every species in this galaxy has the same choice we were denied, Carter said firmly. The right to determine their own destiny. Across the galaxy, the war continued. Human fleets struck at Council strongholds while alien species rose up against their oppressors. The barriers that had kept civilization separated for centuries were falling one by one. The Council's 1,000-year reign was ending, and a new age was beginning. But the final battle for Nexus Prime still lay ahead, and that would determine the future of every living being in the galaxy. The war room aboard the human flagship Earth's Vengeance was quiet except for the soft hum of computers. President Lisa Carter stood before a large screen showing the galaxy, where red and green lights marked the progress of the war. Most of the lights were now green. The Council fleet at Nexus Prime has surrendered, Admiral Helen Carter reported to her sister. Speaker Vextar is requesting immediate negotiations. Lisa nodded slowly. After 2 years of fighting, the moment she had dreamed of was finally here. The Council that had rejected humanity was now begging for peace. Bring him aboard, Lisa said. It's time to end this. An hour later, Speaker Vexitar was escorted into the war room by human guards. The proud reptilian leader who had once looked down on humanity now seemed small and defeated. His green scales had lost their shine, and his yellow eyes showed fear. President Carter, Vexitar said, his voice barely above a whisper. I come to discuss terms of surrender. Lisa studied the alien leader who had changed her world forever. Unconditional surrender, she said simply. Please, Vexitar begged. My people are suffering. Entire worlds have no power or communications. Your virus has shut down our life support systems on dozens of planets. Your people are suffering because... You chose war over peace, Lisa replied coldly. You could have accepted our offer to negotiate months ago. Dr. Amanda Foster, now serving as humanity's chief technology officer, entered the room carrying a data tablet. The barrier network is completely under our control, she announced. Every quarantine field in the galaxy can be shut down from this ship. Vexitar's eyes widened. The barriers had been the Council's ultimate weapon, their way of controlling every species in the galaxy. Without them, the Council had no power at all. What do you want from us? Vexitar asked. Lisa walked to the large window that showed space, outside. Dozens of human ships floated nearby along with vessels from allied species that had joined the rebellion against Council rule. We want what you denied us 7 years ago, Lisa said, the right to exist as equals in this galaxy. You have that now, Vexitar said desperately. You have defeated us. You control most of our territory. We don't want to control territory, Lisa corrected him. We want to free it. She turned back to face the defeated Council leader. The old system is over, Vexitar. No more Council deciding which species deserve freedom. No more barriers keeping civilizations trapped. No more one group controlling the galaxy. Then what? Vexitar asked. Chaos? War between every species? Democracy, Lisa said simply. 3 months later, representatives from over 200 species gathered on the neutral world of Haven for the first Galactic Assembly. The meeting took place in a massive dome that had been built specifically for this purpose with environmental controls that could support dozens of different life forms. Ambassador Julie Peterson, who had spent the war years making contact with oppressed species, stood at the podium addressing the crowd. She looked out at beings she could never have imagined 7 years ago. Crystal creatures that sang instead of speaking, gas-based life forms that floated in special containers, and dozens of other alien races. We are here not as conquerors, and conquered, Julie said, but as equals seeking a better future for all our peoples. In the audience, Elder Bloomheart of the Garden Folk whispered to his companion, 7 years ago, I had never heard of humans. Now they offer us something the Council never did. True freedom. The Assembly voted to dissolve the old Council system completely. In its place, they created the Galactic Federation, a democratic organization where every species had an equal voice, regardless of their size or technology level. The barriers that had divided the galaxy for centuries were permanently shut down. For the first time in 1,000 years, any species could travel freely between the stars. But the biggest surprise came from the former Council species themselves. When given the choice between returning to the old system or joining the new Federation, most chose freedom. We were prisoners too, admitted Captain Velhan, the star singer who had been captured in humanity's first attack years earlier. The Council told us we were partners, but we were really just well-treated slaves. On Earth, Jake Morrison stood in his garden watching the stars. He was now 73 years old and no longer served in space, but he had lived to see humanity take its place among the stars. His daughter Katie, now Admiral Morrison, visited him often with stories of the new worlds being explored and the peaceful trade routes being established. Do you ever regret it? Katie asked him one evening. The way things turned out, I mean. We wanted to join them peacefully, but we ended up destroying their entire civilization. Jake considered the question carefully. We didn't destroy their civilization, he said finally. We freed it from the people who were destroying it slowly, He pointed up at the stars where ships from dozens of species traveled freely through space. Look at what we have now. Look at what everyone has now. On the former council capital world of Prima, the great council chambers had been converted into a museum. Tourists from across the galaxy came to see where the old system had ruled for so long. A young human guide named Lieutenant Jamie Phillips, Commander Phillips' son, led a group of alien visitors through the empty halls. The council believed that peace could only exist through control, Jamie explained to the group. They thought that if they kept everyone separated and dependent, there would be no conflict. A curious alien child raised a tentacle, but didn't. That just create a different kind of conflict, Jamie smiled. Exactly. By trying to prevent all conflict, they created the biggest conflict of all, the war for freedom. In the former council archives, Dr. Marcus Webb and his team continued to study the records of the old system. What they found was both fascinating and disturbing. The council wasn't evil, Webb explained to President Carter during one of her visits. They genuinely believed they were creating a peaceful galaxy, but they were so afraid of change that they stopped all progress. The record showed that many species had tried to challenge council authority over the centuries, but they had been quietly suppressed or isolated. Humanity was simply the first species with both the technology and the determination to succeed. We were lucky in a way, Webb continued. If they had accepted us into the council, we might have become just as passive and dependent as everyone else. The new Federation faced many challenges. Different species had different needs and different ideas about how society should work. There were disagreements and conflicts, but they were resolved through discussion and compromise, not force. Some former council worlds struggled to adapt to freedom. After centuries of being told what to do, making their own decisions was difficult and frightening. Ambassador Peterson found herself traveling constantly, helping species learn to govern themselves and resolve disputes peacefully. Freedom is hard work, she often told struggling planetary governments. It would be easier to let someone else make your decisions, but easy isn't always better. 5 years after the war ended, President Carter stood once again before a gathering of world leaders. But this time, it was not a council chamber where humanity begged for acceptance. It was the Federation Assembly, where humanity served as one voice among many equals. When the council rejected us, Carter said in her speech, they told us we were too violent and dangerous to be trusted with advanced technology. They were right about one thing: we were dangerous. But not to innocent people. We were dangerous to anyone who would deny freedom to others. The audience, representing hundreds of different species, applauded with whatever appendages they possessed. The council feared that diversity would lead to chaos, Carter continued. But look around this room. We have species that breathe different atmospheres, eat different foods, and think in completely different ways. Yet we work together because we share one common belief: that all intelligent life deserves the right to choose its own path. After the ceremony, Carter walked to the observation deck of the Federation building. Through the transparent wall, she could see ships from dozens of different worlds docked at the space station. Admiral Helen Carter joined her sister at the window. "Any regrets?" she asked. Lisa smiled. "Only one. I regret that it took so long." "What do you mean?" 7 years ago, we thought we needed the Council's permission to be part of the galaxy, Lisa explained. But we were already part of it. We just needed to claim our place. In the distance, a new ship was approaching the station. Its design was unlike anything in the Federation fleet. It was clearly from an unexplored region of space. "First contact with a new species," Helen observed. "How do you think we should handle it?" Lisa watched as Federation ships moved to escort the unknown vessel safely to dock. "The same way we wished the Council had handled us, with respect, openness, and the assumption that they have something valuable to contribute." The unknown ship docked peacefully, and soon its crew would be invited to join the ever-growing community of free species that made up the Galactic Federation. Humanity had been left behind by those who claimed to represent peace and order. Response: they had chosen power. Not the power to rule others, but the power to free them. And in freeing the galaxy from the Council's control, they had finally found their true place among the stars.